All right, welcome back everyone. So I intended this being a quick video, but it's going to take a while to color each of these categories. So as we cover them, what I'm going to do is initially show you a listing. I'll put it on your screen of all the different categories that I plan on talking about and the ships that are fully engineering ready. That way you can just off the top see which ships are engineering ready, and if that's all you came for, you can be on your merry way. Thanks for checking out the video. But I do want to talk about the capabilities that are going to be brought along with engineering, at least some of the positive categories of possibilities with engineering, or at least some of my expectations, and that's occurred so far with what engineering will bring along. So up first, we're going to take a look at light fighters. So I will show that listing as well. And so the Wolf is going to be a great example of that. Now, every ship is going to have the option to have the diagnostics MFD. So whether or not the ship is fully engineering ready or not, it won't really matter. You're going to all have the option to have this diagnostics tab for engineering. And again, you will have the option as well to do a repair all or just repair any one component one time before you have to deal with any more further repairs, or you have to go to a hangar or pad in order to get repair services at the location. So you can also track the damage of them, how critical they are, or any errors that it might have. But again, the repair all option will be there, and then you can just kind of generally see the state of the different components. There's a wear and tear, which is more or less just a wear down. That's like armor durability over time. It doesn't really have to do with damage you're taking. It just has to do with the usage of it, and then that can be repaired at pads and things of that nature. And then you have the overall health of the component, which is really what most people will care about, as that will be the part that's going to degrade in combat and potentially cause that component to die and fail. So the benefit you get though, so again, every ship will have this and will have this capability. What components, or what the next ability you'll have is components for those that are fully engineering ready. So what that means is if you in fact have a multi-tool on you with the SRT container, then you will have the ability to do repairs on it. So you can see here now all of my components are fine and shields are on, so I don't really need to do or can't really do any repairs right now. But you can both pull and do any repairs on the fly that you might need to do. Now, you are going to do this in combat. My goal here would be to continue to win the fight just like you would otherwise. But at the end of the fight, if you have enough fuel and ammo for the next fight after that, you just repair what you need to do and be on your merry way. Whereas before, if you had any damage, you couldn't necessarily do repairs and be into the next fight. You had to, I just did a fight. There's a little bit of damage here. I need to go repair that and then go to the next fight. There's a little less downtime. You potentially could do any repairs that you need to do in space. Now, I chose the Wolf here because a lot of the components are accessible, or you can quickly get up to them. However, with some fighters like the Talon and the Saber series, those components are going to be on the top, more so than they are right now with this Wolf. And even if you needed to, this is one of the few ships you can actually get up there. Let's test really quick. I noticed with the bigger ships that the storage has the option to... no, this doesn't have it. Okay, so the bigger ships, when we get to them, you'll see that they have SRT canisters on them, as well as fuses. But yeah, this is just, again, the capability you're going to get with these light fighters is you'll also have the diagnostics, but all the ships will have that. The benefit you have here is the ability to actually access your components and do repairs on them on the fly if you need to before you go to the next fight that you might have. For the small category, I did pull out the Terrapin. I think this is a good opportunity to show its capabilities here. So with the small category, you do want to note that you're going to have more of an interior. So the first thing you're going to have access to is an engineering terminal. So the other small fighters and vehicles, some of the vehicles will have this as well. I think they do. I think like the Nova does. Anyways, but the small category of ships will definitely have an engineering terminal. And so you can use this to kind of manage different things. You can see here I've got the shield generator off. So I don't know why that is, but it's something I can see and I can manage. It's one thing, I think I may have pulled it out. Yeah, so I've got the stuff unlocked because one of the things you can do is if you have a tractor beam is you could potentially pull components like this and then bring a spare one until you can swap these out. I don't see that being a really big deal or something you might want to really partake in. Excuse me. Oh, cough there. I don't think that's something people will be doing initially because claiming is so easy right now that it's not going to be cost effective to do that kind of battle swap, but I don't know. That's something you can play with and decide if it's something you're worthwhile doing. Coolers and other components are something as well that you can all have access to. But the things you'll want to evaluate with a small ship like this is how far apart are the components, because that's both a pro and a con. These components are just far enough apart that you're typically not going to find, depends on the size of the ammo. Like a railgun hit's not going to matter, it's going to kill the ship anyways, but if it's a smaller fighter, they probably can't get their gun ballistics to attack this component and in the same cone be able to do damage to components over here. Alternatively, though, I also can't heal this component right here and over here at the same time, but they're so close to each other and they're all in the same plane, right? There's only one floor option. So when you have to evaluate, is this small ship a good engineering companion? You know, how many flights of stairs you need to go up and down? Can you both go up and down that same engineering area without having to go around to a stairway? Looking at you, Clipper. Throwing so much shade, you don't even need sunscreen. Okay, so I mean, I like the Clipper, but you have to realize that with the engineering area, you can only hop downstairs, but you can't go back up without having to go back around to the ladder or use the elevator. So, or use the lift. So, yeah, it's just the engineering for there. I like the idea that they had there, but the actual process of going through and engineering that poor ship can be challenging. Whereas something like this is obviously much easier. The ship's also way more expensive, so, and it doesn't have as much capability, it has less firepower. So it's just something for people to give and take on, and something to consider when you're looking at a small ship like this. But obviously, something very easy to do engineering on and worthwhile. Additionally, you will notice that with the storage here, you do have 3 of the RMC SRT canisters and fuses. So this is going to be made available on all of the storage containers. I didn't find it on the light fighters, but for whatever reason, again, I think this is, or I said this in a previous video when I was doing this, but or a previous run. But I think this is the counterbalance when Torsten and Jared were talking about possibly adding a vendor. I think they chose this route instead. So there's no fuse vendor outside the hangars in order for you to quickly get fuses before you go out and about. Well, instead they decided to go ahead and spawn in the fuses and SRT canisters just to make sure that y'all have it for engineering, as engineering is going to be obviously the main focus of this particular build. All right, let's move on to the medium category. All right, we're back in the medium category, so I'll also have a listing of all the medium ships here. I was about to lie to you and say the reason I chose the Asgard is because it's the first category you could potentially see ships with more than 2 shields, but that's not true. The Vulture actually, I think, has 3. And so there are going to be some very few outlying cases in the small category you might have more than 2 shields. The reason that's relevant is because you can only have 2 shields active at a time. So you see I have a couple shields out here, but as I go into the area engineering section, you will realize that there's also 2 shields in here as well. Now, some ships, like I think even the Retaliator, has about 6. So again, all of these can only use 2 shields at a time, and there's been some early testing that only having 2 is the better way to go because the recharge rate and everything like that doesn't quite work correctly. So maybe they'll work on that in the future. I'd like to see just once the 2 shields go down, then instantly the next set comes online and put the other ones on cooldown, to be honest. Might as well. I get it. It's going to be hard to kill that ship, but that should be the benefit of having multiple shields and iterations of shields, is having a bunch of shields that are constantly coming up and coming down and regenerating. Okay. So all of that to say that the medium is very similar to the small category, except you'll notice that the differentiation and the distances you have to travel from where you would be piloting probably is pretty significantly different than where it would be in a small ship. So it's going to feel like it's not going to be a soloable opportunity, but I do think it'll still be fairly soloable. Again, I think the goal is to still win most of the fights you're going to win anyways. If you weren't going to win it and you die in engineered, like in 4.5, I think you were probably dying in 4.4 anyways. Maybe your expectations of what engineering can do for you is probably a bit too high. And, you know, if you're fighting a fight and at the end there's only 1 fighter left, maybe you can get your ship back up and running again, depending on its state of existence, right? So if it's almost dead anyways, maybe you can get back up and running and get back into the fight and win. But more than likely, if you lost a fight, you probably would have lost it before engineering as well. Okay, but when the fight's all over, it's very nice to be able to come down here and get up and running again, especially with these small and medium ships that have a fair amount of gas in them, or, you know, and if they have lasers, they don't have ammo to worry about, then it's much easier to continue on with doing more and more missions without having to worry about going back to a pad. Now that, you know, it's possible going to the pad may be the cheaper, or not cheaper, but the quicker option anyways, so it's something worth testing. But yeah, let's move into the next category. There isn't much else to be said here, but again, you will notice that under the storage, there's going to still be the 5 fuses and a couple of the SRT canisters. When you look at your multi-tool, just bring your multi-tool up and hit J, and you can see you can swap out the canister. You should be able to do it with R with repair, but unfortunately right now I have noticed it's been a little buggy. But yeah, that's how you get more RMC. You can see over here it's at about 62%. I know that because it says 62 right here. That's how much I have left. It did say, originally they said batteries should be coming with engineering, but as you see here, that's not the case. So Maybe around crafting time, we might start to see batteries being used, but for now, you just need the canister. And again, those are included in the ships currently, at least the small ships and larger. Let's move on to the next category, the large. Okay, so the large category. So I did choose the Carrack here. Obviously Perseus and some of the ships like that you'll find to be more common as they're popular ships right now because they just came out and they look great. But the Carrack is a old tried and true. Well, tried, yes. I don't know if it's true, but I have it currently as the Loner's Galaxy. You might find quite a few of these because people are prepping for the Galaxy to come out. And it has engineering capabilities. So the reason that this is going to become more popular is the Carrack is actually the 7th highest armor value. And so armor is something we haven't really talked about too terribly much, but you will find that the armor will be more important for the bigger ships. Now, there is some good armor modifications for stuff like the Meteor, so I don't want to say it's not important for the small ships. However, the ships that have large amounts of armor are the bigger ships. And so you're going to find it's going to be more meaningful to better help and better combat the small ships, the usual light fighter meta that you're used to. I'm not saying that you can't die to a light fighter, it's just it's going to help. Hopefully they continue to do more work on it so it helps even more, but for now, it should offer some resistance. So with the size 3 components, the large category, you're going to find you cannot pull these. Even if you have the ports unlocked, it won't matter. You're not going to be able to tractor these out. And that's even existing for like medium ships like the Asgard that have a size 3 shield. So Corsair, all of those that have are medium sized ship, you can pull out the size 2 components, but you can't pull out the size 3s. I don't know if they've looked to rectify that. There's really not any lore, as far as I know, that this prevents that. Now, the capital ships, yeah, they want those done at a station. But from a large components, just for now, they cannot be. They're physicalized. They're here. They're just not physicalized in a way that you can actually pull them. Again, you can go loot them and stuff, but for whatever reason, you cannot pull them in a ship. So the option of bringing other components with you is just not going to be there. Not going to be capability. You can do that in the small, medium category and with the light. You'd have nowhere to put them in the light fighters. At any rate, you have that capability for the smaller ships, but for the larger ones, you just won't have that capability. But yeah, I think this might breathe some life into ships like the Carrack that was really kind of left behind before. This will allow the opportunity to go out. You have a hangar on this ship. Before I had saw the TAC as being a really good competitor and possibly in a lot of ways better than the Carrack, but you're going to find that because this offers more armor than that, the medical bed is not a meaningless change. They both offer the same amount of response, but there's a distance difference. If you want to go out in the Fury, there's a chance you could go too far and you can't respawn in the TAC because you are outside the range. That's not the case with the Carrack. It is the case. You technically could go too far, but it offers quite a bit of range comparatively to, again, what the TAC offers. So I think this could, again, bring some more capabilities to a ship like this than you wouldn't have normally expected to have. It could breathe life into ships like this that really weren't seeing a lot of play before, and now they're going to have more play. And again, look around in the different storage areas. Okay, so right now you'll notice there's still a UI issue. If you pull out your repair tool or something like that, you can actually get back to using it again. I don't know, just a little hack for you. At any rate, yeah, so I'm not saying this is going to be the best option or that a lot of people will be using it because, again, the character still has its number of problems, but there's a chance that you might see more of them because it's just going to bring a little more opportunity to extend the life of a ship like this. It's going to have the engineering and it might bring a good opportunity for you to try it out and you might enjoy it more than you did before engineering. And let's move on to the capital category. Now, last but not least, we do have the Polaris. Now, the Idris and some of the other capitals have a fair amount of engineering kind of ready, and they have terminals and stuff like that, but they don't have all their components fully physicalized. I can speak. So since they don't have all their components fully physicalized, they're not able to really be listed as being engineering complete. Also, the terminals aren't working in this build, so that's fun. I know other builds, they've not had that problem, so hopefully it's something they get rectified before it goes to live. Anyways, you do have your power plant, you have your other components as well. You have your cooler, you have the shield generator, but a lot of them are all together on the Polaris, so you obviously will commonly find that it's easy to kill all those components fairly quickly. It's easy to engineer them that way, because they're all together, but it also takes a while because they're capital components to get them up and running. They've also made some other changes to the Polaris, like you can queue up 8 torpedoes now. I couldn't find the terminal up on the bridge, but I think they're working on that too. It might just be bugged for this build. At any rate, this is still a good option, and so I think people will enjoy it. And it should still have the RMC capabilities in the different storage lockers. And we'll take a look at that as I get ready to sign off on this. But I do appreciate those taking a look at the video and watching. I do appreciate the support. I know I can't always necessarily make all the videos, but there's just not necessarily a lot of content that needs to be made as well. I do want to maybe start a salvage, like maybe with the Salvation. I had some problems trying to use that ship with the hangars in Levski. I was trying to do like somewhat of a starter guide slash kind of playthrough, but like I said, it just was not working out very well. All right, let's take a look at the storage here. I just know there's some storage in here and these different lockers. Let's check these out. Yeah, so throughout the whole ship, you're going to find obviously the rooms. I would expect to see them too, but I was cool to see them in the armory. So yeah, throughout the ship, you should be able to find and have access to quite a bit of RMC because this is a large ship. So that's definitely never a bad thing, is being able to go through here and gather those up. You're going to have tons. If you want to gather all those up for another ship, you can do that too, I guess. But yeah, I appreciate those again for taking time to watch the video, and I appreciate those taking time to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.